Hey, it's Jamie Scrimger. When I became a stepmom, I quickly realized that while moms are encouraged to keep it real, there's a big double standard when it comes to stepmoms. So I decided to start the conversation myself. Thriving as a stepmom doesn't just come from conversations about being a stepmom, though. Here we dive into marriage, relationships, personal growth, and more. My mission? Inspire you to live a kick-ass life while bringing you along as I create my own. This is the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast. Hello. Welcome back to the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast. Guys, I am chatting with Kaitlyn Nilles of Honestly Kaitlyn on the pod today, and we are diving into just the details about Kaitlyn's divorce, her co-parenting relationship, her commitment to remaining friends with her co-parent, and the power of language and referring to the ex. This is a huge one. We also talked about how Kaitlyn's experience as a child of divorce has influenced how she co-parents with her former husband. So Kaitlyn is a single mom of 2 girls living in Salt Lake City. And after struggling with postpartum anxiety with her first daughter, she really just struggled to find her confidence as a new mom because of those unrealistic ideas portrayed by mothers online. So after healing and treating her anxiety symptoms, she started posting just behind the scenes of what being a mom really looks like without the filters. She has grown her social channels to over 200,000 followers between Instagram and TikTok, and her goal is to just encourage and support moms through whatever stage of motherhood they are in. She also hosts a podcast that I didn't sign up for this podcast, which I was recently a guest on. Kaitlyn is amazing. If you're not following her on Instagram and TikTok, be sure to go over and say hello. And with that, let's dive into the episode. All right, Kaitlyn, welcome to the KICK-ASS Stepmom Podcast. I bet you never thought you'd be on a step parenting podcast, eh?
No, I never thought I would be, but here we are.
Yeah, probably a lot of never thought I would be in these situations in your life in the last few years. Can you give us kind of an intro, who you are, what you got going on? I think I was on your podcast around the same time this is all coming out. So give us a deal.
Yeah. So my name's Kaitlyn. I am a single mom, been single for about a year and a half now. I was married for 10 years. I have 2 daughters with my co-parent. His name is Cody. And I work a full-time corporate job. I'm a content creator, just sharing real, raw motherhood truths on Instagram. I've been doing that since 2020. And yeah, I am excited to be here on the podcast today.
You know, that's a lot, doing the full-time gig, being a single mom and creating content and hosting a podcast.
Yes. And I also have a podcast. I forgot to mention that. It just came out like 6 or 7 weeks ago. So I'm really newly in this space, but loving every second of it. And yeah, it is a lot. We were talking before we started recording, and I was just kind of explaining, like, I take a lot of time off from work, my corporate job. I've worked at the same company for almost 13 years. So over that time, I have banked up a lot of PTO. And in order for me to like create content and do my podcast and that, like, I have to take time off in order to make space for that. But it's a space that I love to be in. I love my community. It truly brings me so much joy. So in a way, it doesn't really feel like work.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same. My husband will say, "You're always working." I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I love this, right? I love kind of creating and connecting and all the things. So it definitely is a blessing. Now, I would love to just kind of dive into the language that you just used before we really get into the meat of the podcast. You said my co-parent. You didn't say my ex. Is that a deliberate thing?
Yeah, I think so. So when I first got separated and divorced, it was so weird. It took me a long time to say my ex, and it still feels weird today. So I prefer to use the term co-parent. I feel like because I am so new in being single, and I do have a great relationship with Cody, which may be unique as well. So I don't know. I feel like the word ex just sounds kind of negative. Maybe that's just me, but I don't view him negatively. So I don't know.
I like that. And you know what? There's a blog post. I forgot who wrote it. She was a guest post on my blog like years ago. And she was talking about how she stopped referring to her stepkid's mom as the ex and started referring to them as my stepchildren's mom. And how it just humanized her and made her another mother. It didn't make her feel like a threat. if you think about the way like women are kind of like pit against each other, right? Like saying like the ex, it's almost like whatever, right? But even that language shift can really be super powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that too. Just not referring to, the ex-wife or ex-husband, whatever, as, my step-kid's parent or mom, right? I like that. Yeah, I like that.
For sure. So going back to, you guys, when you decided to separate, like 10 years together is such a long time.
Yeah.
I can just imagine how much grief comes from the end of a marriage. I've been talking about this a lot lately, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, is just the grieving process of that end of a marriage. And I think it's actually something that maybe women struggle with more than the men. They say like men are able to kind of like compartmentalize. What has that process been like for you? You have your person for 10 years and, you decide this isn't what we want. And, how do you deal with the grief process?
Yeah. Well, I think there's like a few different parts to that. So in my experience, and I've heard this from other people, and why women don't grieve the same way that like men do is because I think on average they figured that it takes about 4 years for a woman to like from when they start thinking about leaving to when they actually do it. And I think between that 4-year time frame, or on average 4-year time frame, they're putting in the work, they're going to therapy, they're trying to fix whatever issues there are in that relationship. So I think that goes to show that, people aren't just leaving their marriages just like on a whim. And they have that time to kind of slowly grieve the end of their marriage over that time, rather than it just abruptly stopping or ending and then having to deal with all that. And I think that's more common for men, is when the marriage ends, then they go through that grieving process. I know from my own personal experience, I don't know if I would say it was 4 years, but it was definitely some time, right, before our marriage actually came to an end. And definitely during that time, you just kind of slowly come to the realization, like, this isn't working, I'm putting in the work, and, I want to make the relationship work, but there comes a point where sometimes it just doesn't work out, and that's okay. And so that's kind of what I went through. And then once the separation and divorce actually happened, I mean, there's still grieving processes that you go through too, like grieving the family that you would always have. No one gets married to get divorced, right? We have 2 beautiful daughters, and, thinking about what is their life going to be like living between 2 homes, and I came from a divorced family as well. So my parents divorced when I was about 10. So I lived through that, and I had my own trauma and issues. And so I think that, that made me put a lot of work into my marriage before it actually ended as well, because I didn't want that for my kids. I didn't want the same experience for my kids that I had. And then you grieve things like if you have to sell your house, like grieving, like selling, the home that you lived in, and grieving the family, like your ex's family that maybe you don't have a relationship with anymore. Maybe you had a great relationship and you loved your in-laws. And so there's a grieving process to that. There's a lot of layers that you go through. And then I don't know if you asked this or not, but like, how do you deal with that? For me, it was just time. Like, it's still there, but it gets easier over time. And I think talking about it really helps. Journaling, going to therapy helped me tremendously. I leaned a lot on my family. I feel like I was calling my dad and mom like almost every single day, and going up to their house on, family dinners when my girls were with their dad, and just trying to stay busy, I think was really essential for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about your parents having split, and you were on your Instagram, I believe, once talking about how they had more of a higher conflict relationship when you split.
Yeah.
And then I think your dad moved on, you had a stepmom. What did you learn from their split and the way that they co-parented that has kind of impacted the way that you show up for your girls and for your co-parenting relationship now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the biggest thing for me has been to always talk positively about their dad. And when you think that your kids aren't listening, like they're in the other room or downstairs or whatever, assuming that they can hear what you're saying if you're chatting with a girlfriend or a family member. And so always keeping that in mind, and not saying things about their dad that they could overhear, or saying things to them directly that could affect like their perception of him, because their relationship with both of us is incredibly important. I always want them to have a positive relationship with their dad. I know he feels the same way as well. His parents were divorced too, so he had that experience as well. And so luckily we're on the same page where we understand like the importance of the girls having a good relationship with both of us and just looking at us in the most positive way. So I think that's number one. We also do a lot of things together as a family still. Like I was just chatting with Cody last night about our girls are starting swim class and both of them are a little scared of the water. And so I said, we need to get them more comfortable swimming. Like, would you like to go swimming like this weekend? Like we can both be there. So you can hold one, I can hold one. We can practice getting them used to the water. And so we do a lot of those things together as a family as well. And I think that's really positive for the girls. I know that's not what's going to work for a lot of people, and neither of us are dating anyone. So I think that makes a difference as well. But yeah, just trying to make it as positive as possible and being around each other and not making it uncomfortable for the girls.
Yeah. Is it uncomfortable for you at all? Like when you split and then you're like, okay, we're going to get together for the girls. And it's like the first joint dinner or the first time you're together, like inside, are you like, oh my God, I could throw up right now? I don't know what to expect. Yeah. Or are you just like, this is great. This is totally fine. Like I always wonder how that transition goes from being at a family gathering or a family activity as a couple and then being at the same thing as co-parents and how that dynamic kind of switches.
Yeah. So I think that our situation's pretty unique. I didn't really experience that. I think at the beginning I did, like the first couple of times, it was like, how do we interact? If anything, I think it was more uncomfortable for like family members because they didn't know how to interact with us. And, we would be like joking together. Like, I feel like we're still really great friends. And so I think if anything, it was more uncomfortable for other people. But there's definitely been some situations where like something would happen and then we have like, the girls would have a dance performance or something. We have to be around each other. And it did feel uncomfortable. And trying to have that like layer of maturity so that, we don't say something we regret or try not to make it uncomfortable for the girls and have like that awkward tension. But I think for the most part, we do a pretty good job. And it's not like we hang out all the time either. I would say maybe like once a month, we'll go and do something together as a family. But yeah, definitely not all the time.
Mm-hmm. No, I always found that interesting, right? Like, anyway, I love that you said, something will happen and then we have to be together somewhere. I think that's really powerful when people are co-parenting to be able to be like, okay, we just had that tough conversation. We're not on the same page. You really pissed me off. Mm-hmm. I'm not happy with you. And then be able to go and interact in public. And I actually know there's stepmoms in my community. They'll say, well, they had this interaction, they had this argument, they had this fight. And then she goes to like the hockey arena and acts like everything's fine. I'm like, good, right? Like you have to repair, you have to move on. Like that's actually a really good thing to be able to do in a co-parenting relationship, just being able to kind of like move on.
Yeah, well, and it's also just not the time or place, like when you're around the kids, like sometimes you have to like table conversations and you might be in that space where you're like mad at them or you don't agree, you don't see eye to eye, whatever, but you have to table that conversation and just come back to it when it's more appropriate and so that it doesn't affect the kids. That was one thing that was hard for me growing up. When my dad got remarried, it was really difficult for my mom. And so when we would have birthday parties or our, baptisms or like whatever would be going on. And so everyone would be there, my stepmom, my dad, and my mom. My mom didn't get married for, I think, 5 years after their divorce. So at the beginning, she was just alone. But you could feel like as a child, like you could feel that tension. You could feel like how uncomfortable it was. And there were times like where I didn't want to have a birthday party because I didn't want to have that uncomfortable feeling between my parents, or maybe my dad couldn't come because he was going to be on a business trip. And like, in a way, I was like relieved. I was like, okay, now they're both not going to be there. It's just going to be one. So I don't have to worry about, that uncomfortable tension and I can just relax. And this was when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, so I think that's probably one of the most important things. And now that I'm in it, now I'm divorced myself, I'm like, man, that's hard. Like as a child, you're like, why can't you just get along? Like, it's not a big deal. Then when you're an adult and you're kind of experiencing it, you're like, dang, that was hard. And like, I should have given them more grace. So yeah, it's tough.
Two sides.
Yep.
Two sides. my parents divorced when I was young too. So we tried to do joint Christmases. I think when we all started having kids, because frig, like having to do it all, then, I have to navigate the kids' mom schedule and then like all the things. So we just were like, Mom and Dad, you got to come. We're going to all do it together. And so we did it for 2 years. Years later, so like they split. So this is like 30 years ago, they split. Still so awkward.
Really?
Still terrible, still so awkward. And my youngest sister and brother were like, you do that again, I'm not coming. Like, we got to do it separate. Like,
Wow.
we got to keep this like it's interesting when kids pick up on that, how they just like don't want to even be in this situation. Like, even I'll say, my stepkids, we've said, do you want us to come or would you like us to all like do stuff together? And they're like, no, like, please don't come. They do like having those separate families and that separation between us. So I think good for you for like looking back and being like, yeah, I don't want my kids to feel like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think everyone's situation's unique, right? Like if it works for you, then it works for you. But if it doesn't, then it's best to have that separation, even though maybe you didn't imagine it that way. So you've got to just kind of take it as it comes and what is right for your specific family. And that's not going to look the same for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And did you guys think about like what this will look like? You're saying like neither of you guys are dating, what this could look like, if someone moves on and starts dating someone. Like, do you talk about like your goals for that co-parenting dynamic then? Or is it kind of like we'll figure that one out when it comes?
We've talked about it just kind of briefly. He has told me that like the relationship will be completely different. Like he would not feel comfortable if I was dating someone coming around and like hanging out with me and my new husband or whatever, boyfriend, the kids, and then him just there. So he has told me like, I'm not comfortable with that. And I totally respect that boundary, right? Like I'm going to respect that. I don't know how I would feel though. Like if it were him who is dating someone, I'm sure I would have a lot of feelings about it. Like, oh, this is like painful. Even though I was the one who decided ultimately to leave, it would still be painful to see him with someone else and then having to be in that environment with him and his new girlfriend or wife and my kids and seeing like a new woman interact with my children who obviously like I love with my whole heart would be so hard because, but I want to have that level of maturity because I wanted my parents to have that level of maturity. So I don't know what it's going to truly be like, but I hope I can be mature enough. And if not, we'll just have to set some boundaries and figure out what works best. Because we don't want that tension or it to feel uncomfortable for the girls or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's really important what you just said. And I think it's important for a lot of stepmoms to hear that, even though you left the marriage, even though you want this, it is still hard to think about your partner or your co-parent or your ex or whatever with someone else. And I think that is important for stepmoms to understand, because I think a lot of women come in and they're like, well, the ex doesn't really want to meet me, or they don't want anything to do with me right now, or they don't want me to participate in, anything with the parenting right now. And well, I think it's great for everyone to be able to co-parent and make it all happen. Again, I think there's a lot of grief that takes place there. And sometimes for the mom, it's easier to have that separation, kind of like an out of sight, out of mind, while you're going through that healing process. Because when a new relationship comes in, it's almost like this new section of healing that has to take place. Like you didn't know what it was going to feel like until you saw it. Like you could think, okay, they're going to move on, they're going to date someone, but you don't actually like think about like what that's actually going to feel like, because you don't know until you're there.
Yeah. Well, and I just think about it as like, if I were to see him with another woman, it would definitely hurt, because obviously you get married to stay married to that person. And you're grieving like, oh, it didn't work out. And what if it did? And what if, all those what ifs, and it can make you feel maybe jealous or envious that it's able to work with this person, but it wasn't, the relationship didn't work with you. Yeah. So that will be, another layer to healing when that happens. And it's not a matter of if, it's just when would that happen?
Yeah, for sure. I think understanding though, that there is that process for everyone, right? Like, I think we just normalize moving on and co-parenting, and this is what it should look like, and everyone should get along and all the things. And just understanding that Sometimes space is what you need. I have never been one of those get ready with me, here's my makeup routine girlies on Instagram, but I do get asked a lot of questions about the products that I use and my makeup routine. So here's the deal. A few years ago, I learned about HB Face from someone that I follow on Instagram. I decided to place an order. I just loved that the founder, Hailey Bogart, her makeup routine seemed simple. It was an easy process. She had great tutorials on her Instagram, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. Plus, she's a badass female entrepreneur, and I love supporting that. So after using her products for a few days, I ended up throwing everything else in the garbage. It is so good and changed the way I feel about doing my makeup. So Hailey Bogart is a makeup artist, and she has built a trusted brand by working with celebrities and influencers and countless others across the globe. She has locations in Toronto and Oakville and has huge plans to expand. And guys, her skincare and makeup line, well, it was created with formulas perfected for simple and effective everyday use. And each product was created based on a belief that beauty should be fun and effortless and stress-free, which I am all about. I love all of her products, but I will quickly run through my favorites. So her Skin Perfector is like a light foundation that just perfects your skin and evens out tones. It's just not too heavy. I love it. I love the concealer. I use the bronzer, the tint sticks for a little pink on my cheek. Her mascara is bomb, and her brow kit is next level. Also check out the Skin Butter and the Face Scrub. It is so good. So if you go to hbface.com/Jamie Scrimger and use the code HBJamie, you will get 20% off your order. That's www.hbface.com/Jamie Scrimger, JamiesCrimgeeur, and use the code HB20. You'll get 20% off your order. I know you're going to love this makeup. And when you get it and you try it and you love it, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I can't wait to chat. I want to tell you a story. So I was away with my aunt and my cousin about 2 years ago now. And they are the type of people who have all of their supplements and protein bars and goodies all in a big Ziploc bag when they travel. It's actually so great because they're so organized. They always have the goods, and I'm just not on my game in that way. Now, one morning I was feeling a little dehydrated, and so my aunt gave me some watermelon Element salt to put in my water. So in case you've been living underneath a rock, Element is an electrolyte drink mix. It's the one that everyone has been talking about. And after trying it, I was obsessed for the rest of the trip. I had heard about Element on other podcasts, but I had never tried it. And I just felt so good, loved the taste, and was like, I'm going to reach out to this brand and see if they want to partner on the podcast. Because I really believe that everyone needs some Element in their life. Honestly, every time I'm away or if we're out with friends, I have some in my bag. And I'm like, you have to try this. So fast forward about a year later, Element has been a sponsor of the podcast for a while now. And I love it because it's one of the habits that I have in my daily routine. And my stepson and husband also love Element too. If you have not jumped on the Element train yet, I got to tell you, now is the time. A growing body of research has revealed that optimal health outcomes occur at sodium levels that are 2 to 3 times the government recommendations, which is why Element says more salt, not less. So each pack of Element has a truly meaningful dose of electrolytes in a science-backed ratio. So that's 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium. No sugar, no sketchy ingredients, no gluten, no sugar. And so many other electrolyte drinks are just full of crap and sugar and lacking in actual electrolytes. So with Element, you can be confident that you're getting everything that you need and nothing that you don't. Element comes in 8 flavors. And when you place an order through this link, www.drinklmnt.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom, you get a free sample pack with your order. This way you can try all the flavors and figure out your favorite. My go-to is watermelon and raspberry. My husband and stepson love the lime. www.drinkelement.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom for a free sample pack with purchase. Try risk-free with a money-back guarantee. That's www.drinklmnt.com/KICK-ASS Stepmom. Now, you guys had which I thought was interesting. You were talking about how you started with a 2-month separation. Can you tell me, I'm just curious. So if you don't want to answer this, That's totally fine. I'm just like nosy about this. Like, tell me about this 2-month separation and like why you decided 2 months. how it worked? Because you didn't tell the kids right away. And what was the rationale behind that?
Yeah, that's great. And I'm happy to talk about it. So in the beginning of November, or like the very end of October, we decided that we wanted to try a separation and see how it would feel. It's extremely overwhelming when you're getting a divorce because there's so many unknowns and you're like, is this the right decision? I don't know if other people are like this, but I felt like, is this the right decision? Like, how is it really going to feel? Is the grass really greener? Like, what's going to happen? So we're like, let's test out the waters. We were at that point. And so we decided 2 month separation because it was just through the end of the year. So that was just easiest. Let's do 2 months. Let's see what that's like. So he got an apartment that was close to where we live. And what we did during that 2 month time frame is we have a 9-5 schedule. So I have the kids for 9 days and then he takes them for 5. So during my parenting time, I would be at the house with the girls. And then during his parenting time, I went and stayed with my mom. My mom only lives like 10 minutes away. And then he would stay at his apartment and we just like prepaid that. Right. So yeah, that just kind of helped us figure out if it was something that we really did want. And it did become clear within, I would say pretty quickly within a few weeks that, yeah, we were just better off, moving forward with divorce and having that separation and living alone and that space. I think we were able to better process that rather than trying to just jump right into a divorce. And we didn't have anything that happened in their relationship that was like an affair or anything like that, where like emotions were really high, I would say. So there wasn't like an incident that happened where it's like everything fell apart. And so, it might be different for other people that have situations like that. But for us, it was more of like, let's see how we live separately and what that would look like. And we did tell our girls, if I remember right, we did tell them during that separation. Well, actually, now I'm like not remembering correctly because it's been a year now. So maybe we waited until after the separation. I think we waited a little bit. It wasn't like right away, but we had to explain why, mom and dad weren't in the same house. I'd have to go back in my journal to see exactly how that played out. But yeah, we wanted to keep the girls in the house and not, have them move in and out when we weren't sure what was going on. So we just felt like that was the best thing for us at the time.
Yeah. I've never heard of 9-9-5.
I know it's unique.
Schedule.
Yeah. Not a lot of people have.
Yeah. So is that something you guys came up with on your own, or is that something that your lawyers recommended?
So we came up with it on our own when we were going through like what would custody look like. I remember just Googling like different custody schedules, and we pretty much just based it off of like what worked best for our work schedule. So, I mean, ideally we would do a 50-50 split, but his job is very demanding and he has to commute downtown. So it's about a 30 to 45 minute drive for him every day, Monday through Friday. I am fully remote, so I work from home. I have more flexibility in my job. And so as far as like drop-offs and pickups, from one of our daughters is in daycare, the other one is in kindergarten. So they're at 2 different places, 2 different start times and end times, and it just worked out best for our schedule. And I was happy to have the girls a little bit more than the 50-50. I think that's really kind of daunting for
I think it's unique that you got it.
Like, yeah. And it might not last forever. I mean, there might come a time where he has more flexibility in his job, or he's not commuting that far and he can, and he may want to do 50-50 and it works for his life. It's not that he doesn't want, it's just that it doesn't work for his job right now. And I also help him a lot sometimes too. Like if he's really stuck, like he works in the court system. So if he gets stuck in court or something, I try to be flexible and go pick up the girls or help him out. And he does the same for me if I have something going on. So
yeah, I love that. It sounds like you're still very much a team. And I think that's what gets lost when people separate or when they get divorced. Like they lose that team aspect. And it's like, you're on your own, I'm on my own, and like, you got to figure this out kind of thing. And I've always said like, that's where I think is kind of messed up about our system when it comes to how like the divide thing. So the support that, maybe a working from home mom or a stay at home mom would provide to their partner is gone after divorce. Whereas there's still like that financial support that's still needed. Like the system's kind of screwed up. It only talks about like the financial support as opposed to like the pick up and drop off support and the emotional support and like being there for the kids. So I think it's really great when people can still be a team again, it keeps going back to, I keep thinking about how you call them your co-parent, which I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah.
literally needs to be the way it goes. Now, when it comes to how you guys navigate conflict, like clearly something has had to come up during this process for you guys. You know, you're separating. It's not like you skipped into the lawyer's office and like holding hands and skipped out and just like we're in this like new phase of your life. Can you tell me about what you do to keep this healthy co-parenting relationship while navigating this really stressful time where you're maybe not always on the same page? Because I think there's a lot of co-parents and a lot of even step parents who are trying to have this harmonious co-parenting relationship, but emotions get running hot, right? Then you have feelings and there's resentment creeps up, and then like even issues that stem from your marriage. Like how are you navigating all of that in such an admirable way?
Yeah, I think boundaries are really important to have. So I've had to set some boundaries. He has as well, and like what we will talk about and what we won't. So, I'll just say it. He does very much want to make it work with me. And so I think that makes a big difference because he is trying to, put his best foot forward. I'm not there. There's a lot of issues there in the relationship, but I've had to set a boundary, for example, like I'm not talking about getting back together with you. Like, I want to be friends with you and I respect your boundaries as well. Like if you're not in a place where you can be friends or, talk about things other than the kids, then I respect that. And, I'll respect that boundary and we can only talk about the kids and that's fine. So I think boundaries are really important in communicating like what your needs are. If someone's in a very fragile state, you'll definitely want to, figure out what works for them so that they're not constantly having to talk to the other person in the relationship the co-parenting relationship, except for when it's necessary for like the kids and that type of thing.
So are you just kind of reading the room, being like, this is like healthy right now, or no, this is not really healthy right now. Like this is child-centered. This is not.
Oh yeah. And never in front of the kids, never when the kids are around or even, and it's tricky, right? Because either I have the kids or he has the kids. So it's like, when do we talk about certain things, and one of my daughters really struggles at bedtime. So it's like, sometimes even after they go to bed, it's like, little ears are listening. And so you have to kind of be careful, but yeah, definitely in like the environment, if it's, you have to read the room and know when it's appropriate to talk about those things or bring it up. But as far as like the boundary I've set right now is we're not talking about us getting back together. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready to even like consider that. So I don't want to hear anything about that. And if you do continue to talk to me about that, I'm going to have to set some more boundaries where we can only talk about the kids and like what's relevant to the kids.
And is that how you say it? Because I know I love when
Yes.
people are like, I set boundaries, because I'm always like asking people how they set the boundaries. Because I don't know about you. I feel like boundaries, everyone's just like floating around this boundary word on Instagram now. And a lot of boundaries are just actually people trying to control other people, right? Like they're not actually boundaries. They're like attempts at control. But you saying like, this is how you can interact with me. This is how I'm going to respond if you don't respect that boundary. I think makes it really, really clear, like to the other person.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say it exactly how I said it to you. I'm like, if this happens and this is what's going to happen, I will have to put more boundaries. Then you do have to like follow through with it. And it's really just about me protecting my peace because it's upsetting. Sometimes those conversations can get very upsetting and it brings up a lot of like things and issues in the past. And it kind of just like sets my day up and it's like, there's nothing I can do to control that. So I don't want to constantly be in that state. So it's more of just like protecting my own peace by setting that boundary and not wanting to constantly talk about it.
I'm a big believer in the whole look good, feel good mentality. And I know that when I am feeling at my best, when I am taking care of myself, when I am taking care of my body and nourishing myself, all the things, I am so much more equipped to deal with the extra stress that comes with, our stepfamily dynamic. Now, if you listen to episode I did with Jen Vasey, I think it was episode 214, since September 2023, I have been doing the Metabolic Balance Program, and it has been basically a game changer for me and my body and for how I feel in general. I think this is the best money that I've ever spent on myself. I got into my mid-30s and all of a sudden I was gaining weight. I was feeling fluffy. I was tired. And no matter what I did with my diet or exercise. It was like nothing was budging. I didn't know what else to do. So I decided to try the metabolic balance program and just commit to working with Jen. And so here is the lowdown on the metabolic balance program. So it is a science-backed, all-natural nutrition program that pairs the chemistry of your blood values with the chemistry of food and uses food to heal. So by knowing the exact foods that are right for you to orchestrate change in the body, you will achieve less inflammation, stabilize your blood sugars, have consistent energy, have a healthy digestive system, hormonal balance, and just optimal body weight. So basically, with this program, you go and get your blood tested, they take your results, and they create a custom nutrition plan for you. So my girlfriend's food list was completely different than mine. In fact, her food list, I felt like it was a lot better. I was just a little upset about that, but it was so crazy. Anyway, it has been such a success for me and so many other women who I have connected with. And I highly recommend checking her out. So if you are feeling like the scale won't budge, if you're not feeling confident, your hormones are off, all of the things, it's truly such a game changer. So if you're interested in starting on that wellness journey with Jen, you can contact Jen Vasey and find her on Instagram at jen.the.rhn. So Jen Vasey on Instagram, jen.the.rhn. Again, this was the best money I have ever spent on myself, and I feel like I am telling any woman who will listen about this program. And when you're talking to Jen, let her know that I sent you, or you can use the code KICK-ASS Stepmom, and you can save $100 off the investment, which is huge. Now, we were talking about, I asked you if you were online dating when we were off. And I always ask this because before Darren and I got together, I used to love online dating. I loved it.
You did?
Oh, yeah. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. My sister, we both were online dating. We lived together. I love to go home and check my messages, the whole thing. I was online dating before it was cool, when it was embarrassing. So
when it was embarrassing,
ask people if they are online dating or if they're dating and what that process is. I actually, sidebar, wanted to start a business where I would create people's online dating profiles for them, help them set it up. That would be
genius. Almost like a matchmaker, right? Not full matchmaker, but at least make their profile attractive and pick the right photos
clean out their
and
closet and go in and help them put their best foot forward. Maybe a little rebrand. Maybe that'll be my next gig. But then you said, you're no, I'm happier than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that because I'm kind of
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I have dated. So I feel like at the very beginning, I got on the apps. Everyone said before I got divorced, dating is horrible. It's a shit show, and I was like, it can't be that bad. So I jump on there, I'm kind of wanting to get my feet wet and, in this space where I just kind of want to heal. I almost want to distract myself, right, from my feelings, and went on a few dates, and every single date that I've been on, it just has been in different ways, just not great. The dating, I feel like right now, I don't know if it's just my area. I'm 34 years old. And so mid 30s, I live in Utah. So everyone gets married really young here. So I feel like if you're in your 30s and you're not married, then there's a reason you don't want to be married, right? Or there's just issue. I feel like there's all these issues that come up when you're chatting with someone. I feel like what is important to you when you're 30 years old is different than when you're 20. I got married, I was 22. But no, I feel like I'm in a place right now where I have fully healed from my separation and my divorce. And I have accepted being single. And I actually I kind of enjoy it. That has its perks. And unless someone checks every single box, I would rather just be alone.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think you're probably more clear on what you want in a relationship, what you want from a partner, that kind of thing. It's just you were very young when you got married. I even look back.
Yeah.
I was 26 when we met, 27 when I got married. And I still feel like I was a baby. I don't know why someone I was so young at that time. And you grow so much, like who I was then versus who I am now. And I'm sure it's the same for you. Like you're just a different person and
Yeah,
know more
absolutely.
about yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. Well, and yeah, so in Utah, a lot of people get married, 19, 20. So even when I got married at 22, like, I wouldn't say that was old, but it was definitely, I had a lot of friends that were already married at that point, starting to have babies. But looking back, it's like 22, you don't even know who you are at all. I didn't know who I was 5, 6 years ago when I first started having kids. Like, and so,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's what's important to you now when you're 30 in your mid 30s versus when you're 20. I mean, love is not enough. I mean, if love were enough, then I wouldn't be divorced right now. I love Cody, love my co-parent. Like we get along great, but there were still just problems in the relationship that it was like, I can't do this anymore. Right. So yeah. So unless someone, totally wows me in every capacity, I'm okay to be alone for the rest of my life. And that I think I would be okay with that. Kind of going back to the grief part, that I just had a thought. One other thing I really had to grieve after our divorce was not having a third baby. I always wanted 3. And that was a really hard thing for me to get over, just closing that door. It was like, you're telling me I'm never going to be pregnant again, or I'm not going to have a newborn baby again. When I didn't enjoy it as much with my second, I would say. And now that will never happen again. I mean, I guess it could, but
You wish you could go back.
the older she gets, the more I'm like, no, it's over. But that was a whole grieving process. And that might've been the hardest part of grieving the relationship, was like, I'm done having kids and that, I'll never be pregnant again. So
Mm-hmm. Was there part of you that was like, okay, we could maybe just have one more baby and see how it goes? Or were you like, no?
I knew that.
No.
We're just
No, babies actually don't solve problems.
I mean, in a way, I was like, maybe I'll just get one more out of it, but no, that's just not.
You're like, hey,
that's not
let's
the right
have
way to
like
do
a
it.
goodbye night. Let's have one goodbye night.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my gosh!
That would make it so much more complicated. So, do not recommend. Do not do that.
No, that would be crazy.
So you and Darren, did you meet on a dating app then?
No, we've known each other our whole lives. So we just like know each other through family, but just kind of seen each other sporadically. So I'd always like loved him. Like I remember being at a bar when I was in university and he was there with his wife at the time and like my cousins and stuff. And they were in like the old age line. And I was just like in the younger line. And I remember seeing him and just like always just him. I just loved him. I always had this, like, he was like my old man crush.
Oh,
it's interesting. So we never actually did it online. And I had been dating someone online before we got together. And I had kind of ended that on actually St. Paddy's Day, which is close to this time of year. And then Darren and I started dating like a couple weeks later. And so, yeah, I really thought I was going to have my online dating success story. But my sister did marry someone she met online. So.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was awesome.
I love that.
Anyway, last question for you. I would love to know what you're doing to take care of yourself during this process, because I think like the healing process is super important, and doing the work on yourself. Like both you and your co-parents, like there are things you guys have learned about marriage and your relationships and yourself through this process. And I always feel like divorce is like this invitation to take inventory on like your own stuff and like what's working, maybe what's holding you back. What have you done to kind of do that work on yourself?
Yeah. So it was really hard when first got divorced and separated, because I think like many other women, I put everything into my kids and into my husband and my relationship. And so when the girls would go with Cody and I had 5 days of free time, essentially, after work and whatnot on the weekends, I didn't know what to do with myself. I was like, I don't know what my hobbies are. I don't know what I like to do. I have lost touch with so many friends. And so what I started doing at that time, I started going to a yoga class, started just kind of small, just creating routines around like taking care of myself. So now I have every Friday, I go to a yoga class after work, hot yoga, 5:45. And then after I go and get an acai bowl and go home, take a shower, do an everything shower, go to bed early, and just get really good rest. So that's like my number one thing, is just like find something that you love to do. And if you don't know what that is, go and try different things. So it could be an exercise class or painting or, going for a run, whatever it may be, but just trying out different things and finding what brings you joy, even if it's just a way to distract yourself from your feelings and then ultimately like take care of yourself. I've also reconnected with a lot of friends. So I have a lot of really great girlfriends in my life, some that are single moms as well, some that, I just haven't talked to since high school, which has been amazing to reconnect with them as well. And let's see. Yeah, I don't know, sleep, just catching up on sleep and treating myself. I make myself dinner. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, I feel like the first couple of days I'm like in recovery mode because I have them 9 straight days, which is a lot. And so like the first 2 days I'm like recovering from like just being on call all the time, going. And then after that, then it's like, okay, I'm rested. I really start to miss them, but I try to keep myself busy and just do those things to take care of myself, do things for my business, start a podcast.
Mm-hmm. How much do you guys talk when they're with their dad?
So we do FaceTime, I would say at least every other day. It kind of varies. Sometimes it's every day, and then sometimes we'll go a couple days without chatting. It's so funny because my girls, they're 6 and 3, and every time we call them when they're with me or they're with him, they only want to chat for like a couple minutes, maybe, right?
Tops.
So it's so fun. Yeah, like they don't have a lot to say, and they're just like, okay, mom, like I'm going to go back to playing Barbies or whatever. But yeah, we try to talk every day. And I would say, you know what, at the very beginning, now that I'm thinking about it, it was really hard to talk on the phone. It was really emotional for my girls to talk to me when they were with their dad because they wanted to come back home to me. So in the very beginning, we actually didn't do a lot of talking on the phone because I didn't want to upset them. But as that they've gotten used to the transitions and being with mom and dad and understanding, then, it's not a big deal anymore and they don't cry or anything like that.
Yeah. Did you know that in some court orders, there's like a 20-minute mandated FaceTime a day for the other parent?
Really?
That's a long time.
That is a long time. Like, what would they don't want to talk to me for that long. Even when they're at home with me, they don't want to talk to me for that long.
No, it actually causes a lot of conflict because the kids don't want to talk to them. And then the other parent's like, well, you're making them not want to talk to me. It's like, no, they're kids. They're 6.
Yeah.
And they don't want to talk.
They don't have that much to talk about. You're like, how was your day? It was good. What'd you learn at school? I don't know.
Nothing.
And that's it.
Play. I played.
Yeah, I think people should try to be flexible with that if possible. Maybe not have it a firm 20 minutes. If it's 5, take it.
Maybe you should write a co-parenting book. I think you've got some good strategies.
I don't know about that, but thank you.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Where can everyone find you?
Yeah, everyone can find me. So my podcast is I Didn't Sign Up for This Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at honestly.Kaitlyn, TikTok, the same handle, and same with YouTube.
So good. Okay, we'll send everyone your way. And this has been so good. And we'll have to link each other's podcast episodes in the show notes because we had a really good conversation over on your show as well.
I know. Yep. I can't wait for that one to release.
That's it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd be so grateful if you could share it with someone in your life who you think could benefit from it. And if you haven't already left a rating and a review on iTunes, it really is the best way to support the show. And if you're craving more real talk and coaching and community, be sure to check out my membership, the KICK-ASS Stepmom community. Head to www.kickassstepmom.com to learn more.